Hi guys, today we are learning about CSS icons. Icons can easily be added to your HTML page by using an icon library. Okay, so how do we add icons to our page? I believe today, being day 3, you now have your day 3 folder. Inside the day 3 folder, you have another folder written CSS, and inside the CSS folder, you have style.css file. Okay, and we want to learn about how to add icons to our HTML page. The simplest way to add an icon to your HTML page is with an icon library, such as Font Awesome. So you add the name of the specified icon class to an inline HTML element. To use free icons, we can use them through a website known as Font Awesome Icons. You'll go to their website, Font Awesome Icons, and click on it. And when you click on it, we would like to first of all attach these icons that we are going to download to our HTML page. Okay, so what we'll do, in the head of your HTML, reference the location to your font awesome.min.css. So copy this link here, click on copy, and then in our head element, come down here and Control V, that is, you link the font awesome that we are going to use. And then we go back to icons, click on icons, and we are going to search for cloud. You can search for cloud, and then copy this link, inside our body. After the P tag, paste our link here. Go back to our wherever, copy this link and paste it here, and now you're able to see that our cloud has appeared here, our icon. We can also get another icon and get a clock icon like this one. Click on it and copy and paste it here. You can see it has been added here. So that's how we add our icons using Font Awesome. We can style our icons like this cloud. I will duplicate these to 4, and then we can do an inline styling. Say style, give it font size, give it 24 pixels, then font size 24 pixels. We can give this, we can style this also. Can style this and give it a font size of 36 pixels. We can also style this one and give it a font size of 48 pixels, and then you can change its color to red. The last one, can style and font size to 60 pixels and give it color light blue. All right, so that's how you can work with your icons. You can style them, you can give them different sizes, you can give them different colors as you like. And right now we are going to look at CSS links. And with CSS links, they can be styled in many different ways. Links can be styled differently depending on what state they are in. The first state of a link is that we have a link, and then we have visited link. We have a link when the user mouses over it, and we have an active link. It is a link the moment it is clicked. Let us have an example so that we are able to see and style our link. I will remove this and I will have a header 2 here. Let us have a horizontal rule there, and then have heading 2 and styling a link depending on state. I'll copy a sample text that we are going to use. Our link here, I'm going to link my website. I'm going to link my website here. And now styling our link, we are going to style this link that we have, and we will use this tag, the A tag. We'll go to our style.css and we begin with our link, our A tag link, and we're going to write, let's have a comment here. We say for the unvisited link, let the color be green. Or for unvisited link, let the color be red. Okay. And then for a visited link, let its color be green. That we have already visited that link. The other one is on mouse over link, on hover, do what? Let the color be hot pink. And then let's have selected link, that is the active link. We'll say color is blue. We'll come here and link our CSS file with our HTML file and write CSS / style dot. Okay, since we had clicked on our link, that is why it's showing green. When it has been visited, let it be green. Okay, we are saying on hover, when we put a mouse here, it will change to hot pink. Okay, once we click on this link, it should change color. Like when we click, it's changing color to blue. That is an active color. That's how we style our links. We can look at something else called text decoration. This text decoration property is mostly used to remove underlines from links. Like now we can see that our link here has been underlined. We will say text decoration be none. You can see that it is no longer underlined. The link has been visited. We want to say text decoration be none. And on hover, we want to say text decoration, let's say underline. And on active, text decoration underline. So when we hover our mouse around this link, it should underline like that. We can also have background color on our links. The background color property can be used to specify a background color for links. We can have a background color like this. You can have background. We want you to have a background color, and let's give it a yellow background color. That's a link that has a background color yellow. When visited, we say have a background color of cyan. On hover, have a background color of what? Of light green, and also have a background color, when active, have a background color of hot pink. All right, so on hover, it will have a background color of light green. When it is active, when we click and hold on it, it's going to have a background color at pink. We can also have something else that is called link buttons. We are going to have an example of one of the buttons that we can have, and it can work as a link. Okay, so in our index.html page, let's go ahead and have a paragraph. I'll have a horizontal rule so that, and then I have a header too, and write link button. I'm also going to have paragraph here, and I'll say a link styled as a button. And then let's go ahead and have a link here, and I'll copy my site here and paste it, Control C and Control. Then we'll talk about target. We talked about this property blank. We said it will open in a new page, and then just say this is a link. All right, and then we close on a body. So we want to style our button here, so we'll come here and I'll comment on this, and you put a comma. We say a link, that is, we want to group them. Visited link, we say background. Let's have a background color of, let's say, white. Then let's give it a padding of 14 pixels and 25 pixels. Perfect. And then let's text align. Can align it to the center, and text decoration to none so that we remove that underline, and we say display, say inline block. We say on hover, when the link is active, we'll change the background color to red, and let's see. On hover, change to, you can see it's changing to red. When we click on it, it is red also when it is active. Now we can use this link, a button, as a link. If I click on it, it's going to open my website. We'll talk about CSS display. The display property is the most important CSS property for controlling layout. The display property is used to specify how an element is shown on a web page. So every HTML element has a default display value. Depending on what type of element it is, the default display value for most element is block or inline. The display property has many values. We are going to look at a few values on this display property so that we can see the effect of the inline property. We're going to style our list and say list with display property, and we just write inline. Okay, you can see it has changed to a horizontal menu. The other one we can look at is the block property. I'm going to have span display as block. The other thing we are going to look at is what is called CSS position property. The position property specifies the type of positioning method used for an element. It can either be static, it can be relative, it can be fixed, it can be absolute, or it can be sticky. Elements are then positioned using the top, bottom, left, and right properties. However, these properties will not work unless the position property is set first. Okay, they also work differently depending on the position value. I will copy and paste a text that says that an element with position static is not positioned in any special way. It is always positioned according to the normal flow of the page. We're going to have a div after this paragraph. Let's create a div, and this div, we're going to say this div element has position static. Let's go ahead and style this div. Let's give it a class. Call our class static, just to remember. So come here and write div dot static because we want that particular div, and we'll say position static. Let's give it a border with 3 pixels, solid. Okay, position static, that it is not positioned in any special way. It is always positioned according to the normal flow of the page. The other one you can look at is position relative. In our index.html, we can copy this and give it a class relative, and we'll say this one is position relative. And then let's style it here. Say div dot relative because it has a class. Position relative, left 30 pixels, border it is 3 pixels. Let's say solid blue. It is also positioned relatively to its normal position. The other one we can look at is what we call position fixed. In this one, we can change its class to fixed, and then style it here and change it to fixed so that we can see position. We want it to be position fixed. We're going to give it bottom equals to 0, right equals to 0. Let's give it a width. Let's give it a width of 300 pixels. You can see that this element is fixed. It is fixed down here. You can see that. An element with position fixed is positioned relatively to the viewport, which means it always stays in the same place even if the page is scrolled. Let's look at another property that is known as absolute. An element with position absolute is positioned relative to the nearest positioned ancestor. Text, I'll copy a text and paste it here so that we can style this text. And we'll go back to our CSS style, and we now want to style this class relative and class absolute. Come here and say we have a div dot relative, position or relative, and then width we give it 400 pixels, and height, give it height 200 pixels, and border of 3 pixels, and then solid, give it this color. I'm going to comment on this so that we can see the changes taking effect. Now we want to style the other div dot, we've just named it absolute. We give it a position absolute, say top, and it to be 80 pixels, right 0, don't move 0, and then width 200 pixels with a height of 100 pixels. Then let's give it a border so that you'll be able to see it, that is 3 pixels, and then solid with the same color. Can copy this color and paste it here. All right, that's what we mean by absolute property. The other thing we are going to look at is what is called z-index. The CSS z-index property, it specifies the stack order of an element. Let's go ahead and create a new folder and call it images. Right click and call it images. Which element should be placed in front of or behind the others? An element can have a positive or a negative stack order. Okay, let's look at an example so that you'll be able to understand better. Go to index.html, and then we will comment on this heading 1 here and write this is a heading. After this, let's have an image. Say the source of an image source. inside images folder, then backslash, then we have this image tree.gif, and let's have a paragraph. And this paragraph, I'll just copy and paste this paragraph here. All right, so it's saying because the image has a z index of -1, it will be placed behind the text. So we are going to style our image. I'm going to say our image position relative, let's be on the left 0 pixels, and top 0 pixels, and z index -1. Click on save. Position not relative, but position absolute, not relative, position absolute. And now you can see that the image has a z index of -1, and it has been placed behind the text, like the text is in front of our image. The next thing we are going to look at is what is called CSS overflow. The CSS overflow property controls what happens to content that is too big to fit into an area. This overflow property has the following values. It has visible, it has hidden, it has scroll, and it has auto. In our index.html, I will go ahead and comment on this text here, and then I will have a sample text that we are going to use. I will copy and paste. We'll begin with our div. Let us give it a background color. Give it a width of 200 pixels. Give it a height of 65 pixels. Have a border of 1 pixels solid, and have overflow, our overflow property, and we have visible. You can now be able to see that the overflow is visible, meaning that it is not clipped and it is rendered outside the element box. So we are going to look at how can we make this content to fit in our element box. The other one, we can have the value hidden. I'll copy this, and then I'll paste it here and comment on this. In this one, I'll write hidden, and you can see now that our overflow content has been hidden, but we are not able to read what is in the content box. So what do? We can come here also. I'll copy and paste this code. I'll comment on this, and I'll use another value called scroll. Now the overflow is clipped and a scroll bar is added to scroll inside the box. Okay, you can see that it has the vertical and the horizontal bar. We have another value that is similar to this scroll, but we call it an auto value. Comment this, and down here I'll have auto value. The auto value is similar to scroll, but it adds scroll bars only when necessary. The other thing we are going to look at is what is called CSS float property. The CSS float property specifies how an element should float. Okay, float property have following values. It has left, right, none, and it can also inherit. I will have a sample text. Back to our index.html, I will comment on this text. So we have our image here. We have our header, float right. We want it to float right. We have an example paragraph. We have our image that is stored inside our images folder /pineapple.jpg. Okay, we want to style our paragraph. I will comment on this, and we'll come back here and style our image. So we'll just say image. We use our float property, and we want to tell it to go to the right. Image float. Oh, we had another image here, that's why it is not taking effect, we are going to comment so that it's now floating to the right. We have said the value is right, then we have left. You can see it is floating to the left. We can also have a no float value where we will say none, float next to each other. Okay, so we can just use the values of float. So we have float left, float right, and float none. The other thing we will look at is CSS clear property. And when we use the float property and we want the next element below, not on right or left, we will have to use the clear property. Clear property can have one of the following values. It can have none, it can have left, the element is pushed below, left floated elements, or right, the element is pushed below right, or it can be pushed both. So let's have a look on what we mean with clear property. I will have an sample text that we are going to use. I will comment on this. We will style our div2, we will style our div3 and our div4. So we have this property here and this one. So let's go ahead and style them. Since they are class, we say div, we say float, said float, let it float to the left, the padding of 10 pixels, and also a border of 3 pixels solid, and with this color. Let us style our div2, say dot div, padding 10 pixels, and let it have a border 3 pixels solid red so that it will be visible. Let's style our div3. 3 will say float to the left with a padding of 10 pixels and border of 3 pixels solid, that greenish color. And then style our div4, padding of 10 pixels with a border 3 pixels solid aside. Now we are going to use our clear property here, and we say clear left. Now when we use clear, this one is saying without the clear property. But when we use the clear property, the div4 here, it moves div4 below the floating div3. Okay, so the value left clears elements floated to the left. You can also clear right, and you can also clear both. Another thing we have is what we call clear fix hack. If a floated element is taller than the containing element, it will overflow outside of its container. We can then add a clear fix hack to solve this problem. I will comment on this text, and I'm going to have a sample text that will show us without the clear fix and with clear fix. Okay, this is our images inside images, our images folder. So let's style our image. So we have image 1 and we have image 2. This one we are giving it a style, we are saying clear right, and the second one, it has a class of clear fix. I'll comment on this so that it won't interfere with our styling. We'll have our div, and in our div we are going to have a border. Let us give it 3 pixels solid, CAF0, padding of 5 pixels. Then we are going to have a class. We have our image 1 class. We'll say float to the value of right, go to the right. and our image 2 to also float to the right. And now we have class called clearFix, and we're going to use our property overflow, and we're going to write auto. This image is floated to the right and it is taller than the element containing it, so it overflows outside of its container. To fix this, we used the clearFix property. This one, we say dot clearFix, and then we said overflow equals to auto. We have fixed it by adding a clearFix class with overflow auto to the containing element, and now our image is inside our container. The other thing we are going to look at is what is called inline block value. Compared to display inline, the major difference is that display inline block allows to set a width and height on the element. Okay, we can only look at an example so that we are able to understand what we mean with the inline block. In our index.html, I'll just add our header 1 and our header 2 here, and we're going to have a div element. We'll write the lorem ipsum here, and I'm going to write a span so that we have an inline element. Our first span, we're going to give it a class. So span, let's give it a class A. And our second span, we're also going to give it a class, and let them share the same class. Now let us style our display, our inline display property. We have span, our span with a class A. We'll say display. We want to use inline in this, and we give it a width of 100 pixels. We're also going to give it a height of 100 pixels, and padding, let us give it 5 pixels. Border 1 pixel, solid blue, and let's give it a background color of yellow. This is our inline. This is how our inline property looks like that. Then the same line, I'm going to copy this and paste it here, and now we're going to look how our inline block property is going to look at. So in our display, we'll say display inline block. I'll also paste this for our C, and instead of inline, we're going to say let it display as a block. This example shows us the behavior of the display inline block, and the display block. The other thing we are going to learn today as we close our lesson, we are going to learn about CSS align. In our index.html, we are going to comment on our display inline, and I'm going to have a header 2 here, and it says center an image. I'm going to center an image, set left and right margin to auto, and do what, and make it into a block, element. So we are going to have an image here, an image source, and I'm going to save this image to that folder where I'm going to say image source equals to images slash, then I'll have this image Paris with an alt equals to Paris, and with a style width of 40%. Now let us come to our CSS and comment on this and style our image so that in our display image, we know it is an inline block, so we are going to give it a block display. We've said margin, want it to be margin left and right, going to be auto. And so that's how we center an image. Aligning our image to the center and CSS align is what brings us to the end of this lesson today. Go ahead and practice what we've learned today, and remember to subscribe, to like this video, and I'll see you in the next video.